The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions of 580 WCHS or West Virginia Radio Corporation.
And a very pleasant good morning to you. You're listening to Ask the Expert, WCHS, the voice of Charleston. I'm Dale Cooper. Thank you so much for tuning in on this Wednesday morning. Nice morning as you're driving into work. How the heck do you dress on a day like today, though? 29 when I left the house. When I leave to go back home tonight, it's going to be close to 70 degrees. I had a hard time figuring out how to dress, so I was just a little cold driving into work this morning, trying to make that work out. But thank you so much for tuning in to Ask the Expert this morning. As you're driving into work, you're at home, we have a great show that we're going to be bringing to you. In studio with me today from WVU Physicians of Charleston, Dr. Shawn Chillag is here, and he is the chairperson of the Department of Internal Medicine at West Virginia University School of Medicine, Charleston campus. The clinical practice, of course, WVU Physicians of Charleston over at 3100 McCorkle Avenue Southeast in Charleston, and at the CAMC Memorial Hospital Building, Suite 700, floor 7. We'll get a lot more information out to you, including the website and the phone number as we go along here this morning. I'd like to welcome into the studio Dr. Shawn Chillag. How you doing this morning, Doctor?
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming in this morning, and I appreciate you coming in to share some of your expertise. When we talk about being the chairperson of the Department of Internal Medicine, explain a little bit about what that means.
I supervise and evaluate all the other members of the department. It's sort of like herding cats when you're working with physicians, but I coordinate a lot of their activities for clinical and research and education.
So you help them with the continuing education, you keep everybody in line with like kind of best practices and things along those lines.
Yeah.
When we talk about internal medicine, it's kind of a broad subject. What do you specialize in, or what is it that's your discipline within internal medicine?
It's non-surgical. We are pediatricians for adults.
Okay.
We don't do any surgery or deliver babies or anything like that. It's just medicine for adults.
Okay. Well, which is very important, right? When we talk about holistic health and everything else that's going forward, I mean, the medicine that adults need beyond surgery and different things like that, I mean, that's an important thing to maintain health throughout a lifetime.
Yeah. Internal medicine is by far the largest specialty area of all the many specialties in medicine.
Mm-hmm.
We take care of the most patients. We have the most people in training. The vast majority of research is done in internal medicine departments.
Yeah, I find that this discussion, and you sent along a lot of notes for us to kind of some things that we can go off of today, and a lot of these are, you could almost turn them into whole shows on their own. I mean, they're very interesting discussion points. But one of the things you sent along, I don't know if it was an afterthought, a signature, or if it's something that you just wanted to send as kind of a statement, but you sent along a quote from the 5th century from my goodness, I can't remember the philosopher's. Yeah, Hippocrates. I can't remember his name all of a sudden. But from Hippocrates, you sent over a quote, and this is being used in modification. You know, you hear these sayings all the time, but in full, it's all parts of the body, if used in moderation and exercise and labors to which each is accustomed, become thereby healthy and well-developed and age slowly. But if they are unused and left idle, they become liable to disease, defective growth, and age quickly. It's amazing that this is from the 5th century, and really this is part of what you practice.
This is, as I was preparing for this, I found this quote, and it's amazing, just from the powers of observation, with no science, what we call evidence-based medicine, how accurate this is. Not only does it prevent disease, which makes you die sooner, but activity makes you live longer in the absence of disease. And that's been borne out by hundreds of studies, probably just in the last 50 years.
It's really amazing when you think about it. I tend to, I like to read like a lot of the Stoics and things along those lines. And you read a little piece of wisdom from Marcus Aurelius, and you're like, hey, that really applies to today. But when you think about things in the abstract, moral dilemmas or something don't really change over time. Medicine, we would expect, would change significantly over time. However, what was said in the 5th century is just as good, for the most part, with modern application, of course, today as it was then. I just find that incredible.
Billions of dollars have been spent to prove this to be true.
Yeah, right.
And there was a landmark study in 1953 by a guy named Jeremy Morris in London. And this was so eloquent, so easy, and so important. He studied the heart disease that occurred in people who drove the London double-decker buses,
Right.
versus the conductors who went up and down 500 to 700 steps a day. And he found that the cardiovascular, mostly heart disease, was 30% less in those who burned those calories going up and down steps. And there's very little that's been added since then.
It's incredible to think that I mean, here you're talking about somebody that just by the course of doing their job, which isn't, I mean, although you're going up and down those stairs, it's not something that you would consider like construction work or long-term where you're constantly under physical duress, or you're thinking about the people that do a job and they're naturally fit from doing it because they're slinging tires or concrete or, whatever it might be. This is just simply a guy that's walking up and down the stairs on a bus. However, because that was his job and that level of activity just every day repetitively, that made them more healthy, broadly speaking, than the person who was more sedentary.
Absolutely. The science, what the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, and most experts say, that you get almost all the effect you can get from 150 minutes of aerobic activity. That could be cycling in place, cycling, running, walking, swimming, plus about 2 sessions of resistive exercise. You don't have to run marathons and train 20 hours a week, and it's dose dependent. You get some effect from a little bit, you get more effect from more, and that's what expert after study shows, that if you can do it as part of your job, which is hard to do if you're
Right.
working at a computer terminal.
Right.
And one of the most ridiculous things I've seen, but it might be not so ridiculous, is you can buy treadmills that you walk on while you're at your desk.
Oh yeah, right. I've
Or-
seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any difference how you get your activity.
As long as you
for
get
the
it in
most
one way or the other. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's one of the things here in this building that we've been doing, and we have a person recently that's taken upon kind of being our local liaison from our corporate office, from our wellness committee, where we're trying to track some of these things. In this industry, it's actually very important. We lose a lot of people early in life in this industry from heart disease and different things along those lines. And I think that the reason is a lot what we're talking about today. My job on a daily basis, although this building probably adds a different level because it's 3 floors and I'm always up and down stairs, so maybe I get some of that, the benefit like the double-decker bus driver did. But broadly speaking, we sit in front of a microphone all day. I mean, it is not the most active type of job that you can have. Now, there are some things we do outside, and we'll have flurries of activity when we're doing remote location broadcasts or something along those lines. But generally speaking, there's days that I can come to work and I'll get here at 7:30. I'll leave at 6:30 in the evening time. And other when I go home at lunch to see my wife and my kid, I mean, I may not get up from the computer or from behind a mic. I mean, I'm in an administrative here on top of being on air. It's hard in the course of an 11-hour day to find a place to get that activity. It really is. And so we're trying as a company to make that more aware, to do more group things. We have a group here at lunch that goes over and does some workouts at the Y and things along those lines. Any kind of activity is going to help, right? Even for somebody that lives lifestyles like what we have.
Yeah, and I think you've hit upon a good point, is that many things I do, whether it's lifestyle change, diet, exercise, stopping bad habits, or prescribing medicines, getting adherence to that from people who are just people or patients is really difficult. And there have been studies on how do you recruit more people. And I think what you're talking about is this has to be part of your culture.
Yes.
And it's not part of our culture. It's coming back. So, and people think that to be active and healthy with physical activity, that it requires you go to the gym. It doesn't require that. Probably you need comfortable shoes, and you need 15 to 30 minutes to walk each day briskly. And that's not very expensive.
Right.
You don't need special clothes. You don't need a special diet just to do that. And if that becomes part of your life and part of your local culture, I think that organized activities, because there's a culture that comes along with that, like it's soccer for kids or walking events and things like that, that's what really help people stick to it. And it's not getting started. That is so difficult for people with lifestyle changes, whether it's exercise or diet. It's continuing to carry out those good habits.
With health and obesity being such a problem in West Virginia among our adult population as well as our juvenile population, if you're listening out there this morning and you have a question about any of this, maybe you're having a hard time with your lifestyle, you have some other issues, medically speaking, you think Dr. Chillag can help you, you can give us a call this morning. Our number is 304-345-5858, 304-345-5858. You can find out more information online, WVUPC.org. That's WVUPC.org is an easy place online where you can go and check out more information. But you can give us a call this morning. We'll be able to take calls throughout the program, 304-345-5858. To try to overlay a little bit from my personal life on being fit, I'm 44 years old, first-time dad as of last year. Over the course of a year from about mid-January of 2017, and since we're in March right now, I lost 133 pounds. I lost a lot of weight.
Awesome.
It all came from me thinking about my little daughter coming and me being in my 60s and 300 pounds and trying to think of a way to keep up with that child and to be healthy for that child and not, frankly, die before I have the opportunity to see her graduate high school or college or to get married or maybe even a grandbaby down the line. All of that started to really pile up on me, and that was my motivation for finally. I was fat and happy, honestly. I'd put on weight over the course of 10 years or so, and but now I'm the thinnest I've ever been. But I understand I got there mostly through dieting and not a whole lot of exercise. And so I'm looking at it now. I need to find a way to incorporate some activity into my life. And it's hard being a first-time parent. My wife is a stay-at-home mom, so there's some benefit there, of course. But I'm looking at the margins of my day. I don't get out of here until 6:30 at night. Thinking about adding another trip to the gym or something like that and getting home at 7:30, that doesn't seem all that acceptable to me. So I'm looking at earlier in the day so I can get up earlier. And so I've started collecting some things. I have some ideas that I'm going to implement. And believe me, if I can drop 130 pounds, I can implement an exercise regime. I promise you I can. So I'm looking at some small free weights that I can have around the house where I can have like a little workout area in my living room that only takes me a second to set up and then do some quick workouts. I'm going to go Rocky style. I mean, like push-ups, sit-ups, some free weights. And then a few days a week, try to take a walk in the morning before anybody gets up when it's still dark outside. That's kind of the plan that I have going forward. I'm launching it with spring to see how it happens. With me, tracking is important. With losing weight, I had an app where I was able to put in, I mean, I can go back, I think it's 455 days now, and I can tell you every single thing I've put into my bodies. I can tell you the macronutrients, I can tell you the micronutrients, I have spreadsheets and databases, I can do the whole thing with it. I'm going to do the same thing with my physical fitness as far as exercise and everything goes. Is that the type of thing when you talk about lifestyle change, getting healthier, even at my point in life, 44 years old, am I looking at it kind of the right way? Is there any advice that you would give me? And I'm kind of using myself as a surrogate for the listener out there because there's a lot of people going through something similar to what I am.
Well, we'd call you a guinea pig.
Okay, sure. Yeah, we can do that.
But I think it's very important what you said, is you wouldn't do this for yourself.
It's exactly true.
And I often pitch that to patients about quitting smoking because that's one of the hardest habits to change, harder than narcotics, to quit that. And I say, don't do it for yourself, because you get this altruistic feeling that I'm doing it for somebody else.
Yes.
I can do that. I wouldn't do it for myself.
Yes.
But it's really amazing that you lost that much weight without exercise, because obesity is such a huge problem in West Virginia, is that diets fail.
Yeah.
I don't try not to use the word diet. I use change in how you eat, because diet has this prescriptive, short-term connotation.
Briefly, just to interject, what I ended up doing, I other than modifying some of the things as far like I monitored what I ate first, and I ate way too many carbs. And although I didn't go on like carb starve or keto or anything along those lines, because again, that's too drastic. I wouldn't be able to keep that up long term. I did notice that I needed to kind of invert my own personal pyramid. I needed to figure out exactly how to eat. I haven't changed a thing about what I eat. I eat the exact same thing now that I did when I weighed 310 pounds. The exact same thing. I just eat less of it.
Yeah.
And I've changed the order in which I eat, so I'm a little bit more healthy for what's standard, considered scientifically backed evidence with how you should tier the different micronutrients and stuff like that. But other than that, the exact same stuff I ate a year and a half ago is the same stuff that I'm eating today. I'm just eating a lot less of it.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to keep to that than it is to think about, I need to eat less than 10 carbs today, and I'm going to eat nothing but meat and fruits or whatever it might be. That didn't work for me. I've tried that in the past. It's too restrictive. And even if you do lose weight, on the other end of it, you end up putting it all back on, because what are you going to do if you haven't eaten bread or carbs in a year? What are you going to do when suddenly you can eat breads and carbs again? You're going to put all that weight back on.
And the other part of it is that if you are in negative calorie balance, you're expending more calories than you're taking in, even if you're overweight. Your body recognizes that and says, we're not getting enough food. Let's burn less calories. So your body's requirements, even if your weight is approximately the same, goes down. So what happens to many people when they start on it, and I'm glad you're not using the word diet.
Right.
That's such a negative term to many people, is that you're successful at first, and a lot of that is water weight that happens when you're in negative calorie balance for a week or two, and then after 4 or 5 weeks, if you're negative 500 calories a day, your body's going to slow down to try and correct to taking in that many calories. So you're going to find it even more difficult to lose weight as you go along. And that's where just modest activity is necessary. And you should think of leisure time physical activity in 2 areas. One is aerobic activity, is where you're moving big muscles, walking, up arms, where you gain cardiovascular fitness, that is how long you can do that, and muscle strength, so that lifting weights you don't have to do squats of 300 pounds.
Yeah, you don't have to look like Arnold
Like
Schwarzenegger
me.
or whatever. Yeah, right, yeah. You can't see the doctor here, but specimen for sure.
But so both are important, but if you can just do one, just do one. Another thing that happens is that after the muscle mass, skeletal muscle, the muscle that you use to lift and walk and so forth, is 60% of your body weight for non-obese people. And muscle is the heaviest tissue because it has a huge water component. It's heavier than bone or your liver or your heart. Well, your heart is muscle. So that after age 30, for the average person, you lose 0.5 to 1% of your skeletal muscle mass, the heaviest tissue. So that if at age 30 you're 170 pounds, and age 60 you're 170 pounds, you're a lot fatter.
Interesting.
You've changed the constituency of the different components, and that's bad.
So when you hear somebody say, I weigh the same as I did in high school, but then you look at them, you're like, well, you don't look the same as you did in high school. That's really what you're seeing, is the difference between their muscle mass and the difference it is between when you're young and in your peak and when you're a little older.
Yeah, and
Interesting.
That's true, and that's accentuated by the fact that you lose height in your vertebra. So you take that and you squeeze it out, so it's got to push out somewhere, and then you've added fat to it. And so the body habitus, the way you look, changes without any change in weight.
Interesting.
Ideally, you would, if you're going to keep the same percent of body fat, you would lose weight as you get older. And that loss of skeletal muscle mass, picks up after age 60 and 65.
So then it even accelerates more, and you see that happen.
Yeah.
Very interesting discussion this morning. If you have any questions, you can give us a call. Anything that has to do with, broadly we're talking about internal medicine, but we're talking about aging through the ages or aging through your ages, how to maintain health, as the doctors described a moment ago, pediatrics for adults, internal medicine. But we're trying to talk about how to maintain health and healthiness throughout your life. In West Virginia, this is such a huge issue. I mean, some of the numbers that you provided and some of the relationships that it makes. Our life expectancy in this state is overall not very good compared to other states around us. As a country, we've even slipped from the national scale when it comes to life. How can the most prosperous country in the world with the best research and all of this wonderful infrastructure that's in place, how could we possibly be slipping from our age expectancy? And it has to do with our health. We're fatter as a nation. We're more obese as a nation. And a microcosm of that here in West Virginia, unfortunately, we're about the most obese. We're about the most unhealthy. We have about the most heart disease, diabetes, things along those lines. That's a major issue we have to address here.
McDowell County has the shortest lifespan of any county in the United States. Now, a lot of our shortening lifespan in West Virginia is we're dropping out people in their 20s and 30s from overdosing.
Right.
But it's more than that. We'd still be bad.
Right.
We just wouldn't be as bad without the opioid epidemic. And again, you're sitting there, you've been sedentary for 10 years, you said, boy, I wish I could get fit, is making a big deal out of it. It is not a big deal. It can be walking 15 to 30 minutes, brisk walking several times a week. Get 150 minutes in a week. Keep it up, and that is what is required. Now, there is a dose-dependent effect. That is, the more you do, the better. There's some controversy that once you get too much, that it is not healthy. But and these studies have been done on elite athletes, Olympic aerobic fitness, not weightlifters or hammer throwers, and in Tour de France participants, France, Germany, as well as elite marathoners. Those people live longer than people who exercise less. Now, along with that probably goes, they wouldn't come near a cigarette.
Right. There's other lifestyle choices that they're making along the way that would contribute to that.
Yeah.
But still, yeah.
Yeah. But if you look at maintaining activity, there are 3,500 calories in a pound of fat, adipose tissue in a human. 1 mile of walking or running at any speed burns up 100 calories. That's 35 miles a week. That's daunting.
That's incredible
to think about. There are many things that go into that, and that's very rough approximation of what goes on. But if it's for weight loss, just to do exercise, it's just too hard for people to do. Right. Most people. Now you'll see extremes or diet just alone. But you have who's so extreme.
Yeah, right. I do physical activity, just not concentrated. You know. So it was hard to track, and so I didn't bother because I didn't want it to be falsifying my own report, if you will. Let's go to Kermit in Charleston, who's called in. He has a question for the doctor this morning. Kermit, good morning. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, Coop. What happened to your audio on hold?
The on hold, there's some technical reasons behind it, but when we're doing the show, while the morning news is going on, we have to kind of divert some of that audio, unfortunately.
That's all right. I have a question to the doctor about copper deficiency. Does he have an answer for that?
You can get copper deficient. It's extremely rare. It goes along with other mineral deficiencies. But it's extremely rare, and it usually would only occur in somebody who has an extreme diet. So it is, if you eat anything close to a regular diet in the United States, it is it is almost inconceivable that somebody would have a copper deficiency.
Well, I haven't. I'm 76 years old, soon to be 77. I've had 6 neurologists over a 25-year period. The first 5 never checked my copper. Number 6 said, that's why you have peripheral neuropathy. I'm not diabetic. He says because of the copper deficiency. And I've tried all the supplements, chelated copper, so forth. Nothing brings my copper levels up.
You took something to chelate copper, did you say?
I took chelated copper from Drug Emporium. Didn't affect it at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard for me to give any advice. I would just say that copper deficiency does occur. It's extremely rare in the United States. And many of these unusual measurements have problems with them being done accurately and being repeated and be the same thing. I mean, it's hard for me to give you any advice with such little information, but a neurologist should certainly know about copper deficiency.
Yeah, but they don't have an answer for it, how to get it up. And I've got an endocrinologist now who wants to do a copper infusion, and he's never did one. So I don't want to be the first guinea pig.
No, you never want to be the first white rat. I think that, there must be, and I don't know if this is possible for you, there's got to be a world's copper expert in the United States, and probably not too far from Charleston.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Just a little research to find out who does a lot of this type of study, and maybe reach out to that person or to that organization.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't smoke, don't drink. Married to the first woman for 56 years. we eat normal diets, and we've been on we've been on vitamin mineral supplementation for 29 years. And we walk into a restaurant and people think we're 56 instead of 76.
Well, you're doing something right.
Yeah, sounds like you're doing something right. Unfortunately, without running a whole slew of tests and stuff, it's hard for the doctor to do this. But maybe looking into whether there could be some research that's being done that you might be able to reach out with your case. It might even be something they would be interested in looking at anyway, just because of your situation. It sounds like it's kind of difficult to dial down the exact reasons. But Kermit, thank you so much for your call this morning. We got to go to our commercial break now. Thanks for holding on there. And that leaves a phone line open for you if you want to give us a call, 304-345-5858, 304-345-5858. We have a couple other things we want to talk about when we come back, several other things actually. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the unique makeup of West Virginia, our landscapes, and how important it is to have activity centers and things like that, especially for our youth and stuff like that, to incorporate a healthy lifestyle. I want to talk about that and more when we come back in the last 10 minutes of the program. Your questions at 304-345-5858, 345-5858. Dr. Shawn Chillag is our guest this morning. He is the chairperson of the Department of Internal Medicine at WVU School of Medicine, the Charleston campus. More information, WVUPC.org. That's WVUPC.org. The phone number is 720-7305, 304-720-7305. We're going to take a break and be back right after this. You're listening to Ask the Expert, WCHS, the voice of Charleston.
This story is called The Ugly Truth About Timeshare. If you think you've done your family a favor by buying a timeshare, you need my help. Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, CEO and founder of Wesley Financial Group. 10 years ago, I started helping folks cancel their timeshare contracts, and in the process started what's now called the timeshare cancellation industry. Timeshare is the only thing that you can buy that you can't tell me how much it's going to cost or when it's going to end. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check to fill out any amount they want for annual maintenance and assessment fees. Sound crazy? The crazy thing is, this never ends. Even when you die, your family's now going to be stuck with this burden. Stop the insanity today. Call my office now. I guarantee if we can't cancel your timeshare contract, you'll pay nothing.
Call for your free information kit, 800-970-8855. That's 800-970-8855. 800-970-8855.
Good morning. We're still running accident-free for this morning's commute. Just one instance to watch for right now. There's a disabled vehicle on I-64 westbound, mile marker 58, just past the Oakwood Road exit. It's a heavy traffic area, so use caution passing by. Road crews are out again today doing patching work. Be sure to observe work zone speed limits. Traffic brought to you by City National Bank, where you can purchase or refinance your home with a no down payment mortgage. City National Bank, equal housing lender. For a convenient location near you, log on to bank@city.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC. This is Jeannie Kay on the Voice of Charleston, 580 WCHS.
You're listening to Ask the Expert, WCHS, the Voice of Charleston. I'm Dale Cooper. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. Having a great discussion this morning with Dr. Shawn Chillag. He is the chairperson of the Department of Internal Medicine at West Virginia University School of Medicine, Charleston campus. Their phone number is 304-727-7305, and the website is wvupc.org. That's wvupc.org. Just for a moment, Dr. Chillag, let's I have some other questions I want to ask you, but let's kind of tie this in nicely for the folks that are listening out there. And number one, the importance of primary care, the importance of going to see a doctor to get, if you have something that's wrong, a lot of this stuff is going to be, you can get ahead of it by having regular checkups and by having a doctor who's familiar with you holistically, your entire body and your makeup of everything.
Family practitioners, family practitioners, pediatricians, internists, they should be good sources for somebody who wants to begin a physical activity program, wants to talk about diet. That's your best place to go. Subspecialists like cardiologists, endocrinologists, adult or children, they can give you advice, but you can get probably 99.9% of the information that any person is going to need by going to their primary care, whether it's a pediatrician, a family medicine doctor, or a general internist. And you can get most of your information there.
And it's important to have that relationship, because the relationship of having your normal checkups, all the blood works on file, all of your checkups, your weight, anything that you would check over time. And then if you're feeling a little sick or if you get help in some way, all of that stuff is charted and properly indexed, I guess. So when you start to age and you're having failing health or something comes up, you have someone with that data that can help you get into that and help diagnose it.
Yeah. Change over time. 2 points on a graph is so much more information when a disease or a problem is present than just 1 point in time. Regarding exercise, people often wonder, I'm 26, I'm 46, I'm 66. I think I'm going to start this program. What should I do? Mm-hmm. Will I be safe? That's a very difficult answer, very difficult question with a tough answer. But I would say what one doc said, and these aren't my words, is that should I get an evaluation by a doctor before I exercise? The converse is, if you're not going to exercise, then you better see a doctor to make sure that you don't have any risk factors for the big killers in our society that need modification with medications or so forth. So it's hard to say who should see their doctor before they start a program, but the vast majority of people don't need to do that.
Right, and I think that you're just going to get healthier, but like you said, having 2 points on a graph makes so much more sense, and that is so much more informative, and that makes a lot of sense to me. One of the things that I did before I undertook my lifestyle changes, I did go see my doctor because I knew that I wanted to lose a drastic amount of weight, so I wanted to talk about it. And I saw him over the course of a year. I saw him 3 times because I kept on losing weight, wanted to make sure it was healthy. I was on blood pressure medicine and eventually had to come off the blood pressure medicine because it was making me sick. I'd lost too much weight and I didn't need it any longer. But all those things were things that I was able to kind of steer because I went to go see that doctor first and to get ahead of kind of what I was looking to do. I found that that was very informative. But the bottom line was you just had to start somewhere. You had to get healthier, decide that you were going to get healthier. And that was one of the things I wanted to talk about. Your genetic makeup only makes up so much of your determined longevity. I mean, what we do to modify our bodies over the course of our lifetime goes in so much into what our longevity and how healthy we're going to be and for how long.
Yeah. you're born with your gene set. It says you're going to live to 72.3 years old. But only 25% of that is probably determined by that genetic makeup. The other things that determine life expectancy versus life length: exercise, healthy habits will help you reach your maximum. It's not going to make you go past your maximum.
Right, yeah.
But it's going to increase the likelihood that you're going to do that. Those elite athletes I mentioned, on average, they live 2.8 to 4.7 years longer than their cohort. So they got closer to their maximum. And if you think about leisure time activity, physical activity, there are two ways of looking at it. One is it'll help you reach your maximum, and the other thing is that it will decrease those likelihood of having those diseases that really shorten your life, that are real killers. You had a really great example. Modest activity, nothing ridiculous, is worth getting off one blood pressure medicine.
Yeah, absolutely, it was.
It improves diabetic control. It makes it easier to control your weight. So it modifies those disease risk factors, but in and of itself, it makes you live longer. I used to work with a guy who was a big researcher in activity and obesity, and he used to say, it's better to be obese, fat, and fit than to be just fit. That is, it's best to be fit and lean,
Right.
but being active, even if you're overweight, will attenuate, lessen some of the ill effects of being overweight.
That's very interesting. Let's try to squeeze in another phone call before we leave the airways this morning. Jan has called in from Charleston. She has a question this morning. Jan, good morning. How you doing?
I'm all right. I was just asking a question. Do you know anything about kelp supplements?
No, I mean, it's a vegetable. It's got to be high in iodine and salt if it came from salt water. It's another source of calories and minerals. I would think that it's a lot better than a Big Mac for you.
Oh yeah, well, no, because I was just wondering because somebody was wanting me to thinking because I'm cold a lot, but I don't think it's a real big thing. I mean, it's something I've just through my entire life. But they said if I take kelp, that it would help, but I'm afraid that it will affect my thyroid. Because I do know this has iodine in it, and
yes,
that has something to do with your thyroid, and I don't want to go and take something because this isn't really something I deal with like 12 months out of the year. It's just when it's cold, but I think, like I said, I think it's normal, and I think they're overreacting.
I think that you have a great deal of common sense. Thyroid diseases is one of my favorite diseases to treat because I can do such a good job because the medicines are non-toxic, and if you have thyroid problems, it doesn't take a world's expert to take care of that and make somebody feel better. But taking too much of anything, whether it's iodine, iron, copper, alcohol, are all bad for you. Everything in moderation is reasonable.
Yeah, yes. But like I said, they were 600 milligram tablets one a day, and I'm just, like I said, I want to be careful because I do have, now in my family, but it's not immediate family, but it's in my family, there has been thyroid issues. But I've never had, I'm healthy. I'm not like morbidly obese or anything. I mean, but I just want to make sure because I do take fish oil, I do take glucosamine conjoined.
Jan, unfortunately, we have to leave it there. We only have a few seconds left on the airwaves. We have to leave it there. Sorry for that, Jan. You can follow up at 304-727-7305. That's 304-720-7305. Dr. Chillag, thank you so much for your time this morning. We learned a lot, and I appreciate your expertise. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
More information online, WVUPC.org. That's WVUPC.org. Dr. Shawn Chillag is from the WVU Physicians of Charleston, located here in Charleston, WVUPC.org. Have a great morning, everyone.
580 WCHS-AM, 96.5 FM Charleston, and 104.5 FM Cross Lanes, a West Virginia Radio Corporation station. It's 9 o'clock.
From ABC News. I'm Sherry Preston. Former Trump campaign chair Paul Manafort back in court this hour for a second sentencing in as many weeks. ABC News senior justice correspondent Pierre Thomas is outside the courthouse.
He pleaded guilty last year to 2 charges involving conspiracy and obstruction of justice in connection with the special counsel's investigation of his role as an unregistered foreign lobbyist. He faces a statutory maximum of up to 10 years of incarceration, in addition to the nearly 4 years he got last week. As we saw last week, the judge has a lot of latitude in deciding how much of any additional time he serves.
The judge could run this sentence concurrently or consecutively with Manafort's existing prison term. Ethiopian Airlines says the black boxes from the Boeing jet crash will be sent to Europe for analysis. No word yet on which country. This says airlines in countries around the world ground or ban the aircraft involved. President Trump also weighing in.
The president
involved. President Trump also weighing in.
The president
involved.